Hi everyone, and welcome to Strength and Conditioning with Para Rowing Foundation. I am joined by Kingsley again this week. Thanks for joining, Kingsley. And this week is all about
Awesome to be here.
So we are going to be working on some mobility, some stretching, and some techniques for some release for those sore muscles that I know you guys are working up to. So equipment that I'm going to recommend for today is a ball of some sort. I have a tennis ball. A lacrosse ball would also work really well. Yep, and then you have something to play with while I'm talking to you. And then I'm gonna a foam roller and a towel. You will want a back towel because you're gonna want a little bit of length for your towel. And then something like a wall that you can press into, all right? So once you have grabbed all of your equipment, let's get started. We are gonna do a little bit of warm up just to make sure that we have put all of our shoulders into the right places and that we're ready for this mobility work. So let's start with our elevation and depression. Go ahead and shrug those shoulders up towards the ears, and then exhale as you release and drop the shoulder blades down. Nice big inhale and shrug. Feel the tension in the tops of the shoulders. And then exhale, press them away, pull from the armpits to get that nice length between the shoulder and the ear. Working the breath in with the movement. And let's do 2 more cycles. Nice big shrug up, picturing your shoulder blades like an elevator. Last time, big shrug up and press them down and away. Keep that little bit of depression, think nice wide collarbones, as you put your hands out in front of you for our protraction and retraction. So protract, push your fingertips away from your body, and then retract, pull the shoulder blades together, widen the collarbones. Protract, feel the shoulder blades spread from east to west, and then retract, think about them squeezing in towards the middle of the spinal column every time you bring them back. Press them away, and then pull them back in. Let's do 3 more. Press away, pull back in, keeping that torso nice and stable, picturing the shoulder blades just kind of winging around that rib cage. All right, let's do a few rotations. Hands come out to the side, nice long T. Think about depressing those shoulders a little bit. So big long neck here, and we're just going to flip the palms up and then flip the palms down, right? Again, really easy to just kind of move the hands here. So think about that movement originating from the shoulder joint. So you're thinking about the shoulder leads the elbow, which leads the wrist. And let's think about reaching away from your opposite fingertips so that we are long across the chest and long from fingertip to fingertip for 2 more. That's 1. Last time. This is the only hard work you have to do today. And bring it down for just a second. Roll out those shoulders a little bit because we are going to do that same thing up and overhead. All right? So take your hands up, palms facing each other, right up and over your head. All right? Pull that rib cage down just a little bit to make sure those abs stay engaged. And then from here, it's the same thing. Flip your palms so they're facing away from one another, and then flip your palms so they're facing one another. Thinking about that movement originating from the shoulder. Here we go. Reach tall to that ceiling for 3 more. This one is no joke. It seems like it should be so easy, but it's really hard. Last time. And together, and bring those hands down. All right, nice job. Okay, so mobility, right, is the movement in our joints. So we're gonna kind of move through our joints, wrists, elbows, shoulders, then we're gonna do our thoracic and cervical spine, okay? So that is kind of the plan for today. When we're stretching, we are working with the length in the muscle, and when we're mobilizing, we're working with the movement in the joint. So just quickly, some terminology for you guys to kind of understand. So we're gonna work with our wrist joints first, all right? So go ahead and just clasp those hands in front of you like you're in kindergarten and you're ignoring your teacher and make your little wrist rolls here, all right? And what I want you to think is, again, it's not just that we're like, okay, now we really are just ignoring Steph, she's talking, right? Think about really using that top hand to push the bottom hand down. Explore all of those angles that your wrists can actually move in, right? Whenever I am thinking about mobility, I think about what the function of the joint is, right? So think about a door hinge. A door hinge is made to open and close your door, right? That is really the only position that it should move in, right? A wheel on a car is made to rotate. So those are the purposes, and different joints have different movements like that. So our wrists have actually quite a bit of mobility. So you can just, think about moving it in a hinge, go forward and backwards. You can go side to side, right? That one, a little bit less, okay? So maybe it's not a great door opening this direction, but you also have the rotation, which we just did. You can move in that big circle. You can switch directions. So that's what we're really talking about when we're looking at the mobility, is where can this joint move safely and what purpose does it serve, right? All right. Once you feel even and good with that, you're going to come over to your wall or hard surface that you can press against, and you're going to place your hands against that surface. Let me just adjust my camera a little bit. It's getting a little dark in here. All right, now from here, palms are going to plant away from you, and I want you to lean your body weight into it and pretend like you are going to press that wall away from you as hard as you can, feeling now a stretch across the bottom of the forearm. Hold for 2 seconds, and then we're gonna flip that. So now the back of the hand is against your wall. Let the elbows drop just a little bit and press into that, now feeling a stretch across the top of the forearms. And we're gonna move between those two motions. So it's palms face the wall, press in, and then it's backs of the hands on the wall, press down and in. And again, we should be getting the mobility of the wrist, right? Because we're working that hinge at the front of the wrist, but we're also getting a stretch because you should feel that you're feeling a little bit of length in the muscle between the elbow and the wrist, either on the top or the bottom, depending on which one you're doing. Let's do 3 more, right? And I know in rowing, we all hear from our coaches about how we're not supposed to drop our feathering hands and our wrists should remain pretty much neutral. And while that is very well intentioned, it's also important that your wrists can move in a healthy way, because we've all been in a situation where maybe you catch a crab and you really need to get that blade moving, and you're gonna need to bend your wrist, all right? Let's do 2 more like that. All right, just moving between those two, keeping it nice and dynamic here. Last time. And on this one, on this next one, go ahead and flip your palms so they're the ones facing in, press in, and now we're gonna rock side to side. So shift your body weight to the right, shift your body weight to the left, and then come back up, flip the palms so they're facing towards you and the backs of the hands are on there. Drop those elbows down a little bit, same thing, shift and shift. So it's the exact same movement. We're alternating between palms and backs of the hands, but now we're adding in that little bit of shift. So again, the stretch remains more or less the same, but we're putting just a little bit of a different load on the wrist, right? And you can almost think about this as pretend that your hands are your feet, right? Think about how you shift from side to side, or someone might shift from side to side on their feet, right? That's the same thing we're doing right here, is we're just practicing that shifting movement from side to side. Last time. Palms face you. Drop those elbows down a little bit. And take a break. All right. Now we're going to do just a little bit of a distraction in the bone. So this should feel nice. If it doesn't, don't do it, all right? So you're going to place your pointer, I like to use my middle finger and my thumb, and you're going to put it around right where you would have like a bracelet or maybe not a watch, but right underneath that bony prominence of your wrist. And then you're just going to think about pulling your hand in one direction and push your elbow in the other direction. And you're creating traction between that joint, like you're gonna pull your hand off and hand it to someone else, all right? So if you had Pettigrew's hand in Harry Potter, you would be able to just pop that sucker off and hand it over to Lord Voldemort. Yes, if you didn't get that reference, go read Harry Potter, seriously. And again, this is just creating a little bit of space in the joint, right? We just kind of compressed those bones by pressing into the wrist as much as we did. And so now we're just creating a little bit of space. Let's do 2 more. Think about really pulling horizontal. There's not really vertical motion here. And go ahead and switch your sides. So again, fingers get placed right into where the hand meets the wrist, and then pull your hand one direction while your elbow goes the opposite direction. Feeling that there actually is a little bit of movement of those bones away from one another. 2 more. Good. All right, let's flip back to our wall. We're gonna do one thing for our elbows before we go to the shoulders, all right? So start with your palms against the wall, all right? Think about the rotation coming from the elbow joint for this next one, all right? If you look down, you have your elbow pit, okay? And I want you to rotate it up towards the ceiling so that the lines in your elbow are pointing directly upwards, all right? Now from here, rotate those pits so they're facing each other. And then rotate so they're facing the ceiling, right? And we're trying to really isolate from the elbow. The shoulder's gonna move just a little bit, but try to keep the shoulder as stable as you can and work the rotation thinking about the line of the elbow is what is leading you backward and forward. So it's like if someone pressed down on the inside of that elbow, that is the heavy part that is initiating the motion here. This probably feels a little bit weird, but it's actually a pretty important motion for all of our rowers, because when your elbow pit is towards the ceiling, you will have better access to your lats, all right? I kind of picture it like you're screwing your shoulder joint into place. And so, if anyone has been told that, you know, they're not connecting under their armpits, this is a good trick to try, is just try rotating those elbow pits up towards the ceiling to find that connection. All right, last one. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to the shoulders. So grab your towel, make sure it's rolled and roll it up lengthwise so that you have a nice long towel movement, all right? Now, I have a slightly longer towel than Kingsley, so I'm going to do this range of motion with a little bit more range of motion, and Kingsley's gonna demonstrate this with slightly less, all right? So depending on your towel and your shoulder mobility, pick whichever one feels best for you. So put those hands out in front of you. Hands should be towards the end of the towel probably. And you're gonna go up and over your head. You can stop, right, somewhere around here and then come back to center, you know, stopping when you feel that there's a nice stretch across the chest. Or if you have a long enough towel or the shoulder mobility to do so, you can come all the way up and over, feeling that nice stretch in the chest and feeling the rotation in the shoulder. Now, biggest pitfall in this one is letting your spine compensate for your shoulder mobility. So if you feel like you are popping your rib cage, right, to get up that high, go just a little bit less, right? You want to be able to maintain that abdominal connection the whole time, right? And then the other thing is getting a big shrug in the shoulders to get us up and over there. We are not Olympic lifting. This is not a snatch. Let's do 2 more. Oh, Kingsley, don't use your dog as an excuse to not to stop your work. Okay, everyone pat their dogs if they're nearby, and then pick your towel back up. All right, go ahead and leave your hands in front of you. 1 more here with the towel. So from here, we're gonna do an around the world, okay? So left hand is gonna stay down towards your hip or your knee, and then your right hand is gonna circle up and over so that you make a diagonal by your ear. Now again, shoulder mobility and towel length, you can either do this half range of motion, so you come behind and then come right out in front, right? Kingsley's gonna demonstrate this for us. Or if you're feeling good with that, you can come all the way up and over, behind, and then switch sides like you're making a big circle with your hands. So pick whichever one is good for you. We're gonna have to either switch sides or switch direction. So stay with one side or one direction as we work through here initially. Let's do 2 more. And once you're in front, either go ahead and switch the side you were on or switch the direction. So for me, now my right hand is gonna stay towards my hip. I'm gonna lift with my left hand and then come behind, making this nice big arc around my head. Or maybe it's like almost like a moving pendulum, I guess. Good. And think just a second about dropping those shoulders a little bit. There we go. Yep. Take breaks as you need them. Make sure you can move your head freely during this. So we don't want to be carrying any extra tension in our neck at any point. Let's do 2 more. Check in on those rib cages. Make sure those abdominals are staying nice and tight at the top. And rest. Whew, who knew our recovery day would be so challenging? All right, we are gonna need our towel later on. So put it to the side, and you can either keep it lengthwise and double it up so that it looks like a U, or you can roll it so that it's just one more big, long lump. So you're gonna want this towel later on. All right, grab your foam roller for a little bit of thoracic work. All right, so for this next one, you can use your foam roller to put that top leg on. We're gonna do some rotation, all right? Or you can hold on to your legs with your bottom hand, all right? So pick whatever's comfortable. I kind of like the foam roller because it helps stack the hips, but you don't have to use it if you don't like it, all right? And then the bottom hand can again either help support the legs, or it can be out on the ground or holding on to something for support, all right? Now here, your top hand is gonna be what moves. So you make a little book with your hands, if this hand is out in front, and from here, you're gonna draw up and over like you're making a rainbow with that top hand until you feel that you start to rotate, right? So we wanna get this rotation from the mid-back. So make sure that you're not rotating so much that you just kind of flop over, right? So control the movement as much as you can, stopping when you feel that you would have to adjust to go any further, and then bring it back towards center. And then open, feel that nice rotation through that mid-back, and draw back towards center. You can definitely rest the head here, especially in that end range of motion. but do make sure that you're following your hand with your gaze, right? So you want to think about, I always kind of picture the rotation as like a barbershop pole, those old school stripy ones that rotate up. So even though we're working the rotation initially from the mid back, the rotation doesn't just stop, right? It sends the rotation up all the way through the neck and head, just like your barbershop pole sends the colors up towards the top. Let's do 2 more. And I like to use the exhale here as you come across, just because it gets rid of some of that air that might prevent you from getting the rotation. All right, we're gonna stay here because we're gonna add on in this position. All right, make sure you have enough space above you to reach overhead. Same idea, but now, instead of just going straight across, you're gonna take that top hand, you're gonna draw up and over your head, like you're creating a crescent moon, and then all the way behind you, again, the hand is not necessarily gonna touch the ground, mine doesn't, until you end in the same ending position. And then return by drawing that semicircle back up and around the head. This one should feel a little bit more intense, right? You should be getting a little bit more of a stretch through the front chest, especially in your maybe the back third of that semicircle. Let's do 2 more full ones once we're back at the front. Again, make sure you're following the fingertips with your gaze. And as you work through this, you might find that you can get a little bit closer to the ground with every pass. You are finding a little bit more looseness in the front of that chest. All right, bring it all the way back around. And then we're gonna flip to the opposite side and do that same thing. So switch sides. Come on over. And we're gonna start with our book openers. Just like we did, I'm on the right now. My right hand is gonna lead. So same exact thing, except for now we're doing it on the opposite side. So get situated, and remember, one side is gonna be more flexible or more mobile than the other. So just accept that, notice it, and let's go. So it's open up. This time we're making our rainbow up in the air. Yes. Feeling that lovely opening across the chest as we reach back. And feeling the twist from the mid-back all the way up through the top of that head. This one hopefully should not feel like too much work. This should just feel nice. And this is a really nice one. I'm sure almost everyone has done some variation of this stretch, just because it does get us moving in a plane that we don't usually move in, right? We usually move just forward and backward. And this one gets us into that transverse plane, right? Or our rotational plane, which I know you scholars just don't care about, but maybe one day you'll want to sweep row. Who knows? All right, on this one, as you come back to the center, let's go ahead and add in our overhead rotation here. So fingertips trace that little half moon up and over. Your bicep passes your face, and then you end up in that same position. And then trace back around. Now, if you are having trouble with this movement, sometimes adding a small hand weight and I mean small, like 2 pounds, maybe 3, can help because it'll give you just a little bit of pull down towards the ground, which can sometimes aid in that movement and give you just a little bit of resistance to fight your muscles and help them find that length. And just take note which arm feels the tension at which point. So for me, my right arm feels the tension much later, probably in the last like 1/8 of that movement. Just something to notice, find your sticky spots because that's where you want to, spend a little bit of time working in the future. All right, let's do one more. Draw that all the way up and overhead. Follow that hand with your gaze. And then bring it back to center. Nice work. All right, keep your foam roller and just flip onto your back for a little bit more thoracic extension. So for this one, place that foam roller so that the bottom of your shoulder blades is supported by the foam roller, all right? And you can always move around in this and find what feels comfortable, all right? The important part is I want you to start by thinking about getting long from your hip bones all the way up through your shoulders, all right? So we're not curving immediately. Place the hands behind the head. This is just for support, all right? And then from here, keeping those ribs down as much as you can, you're going to create space around the foam roller. Think about looking up at the corner of your ceiling. And then exhale as you draw it back up. Again, this one is not an abdominal exercise, right? Your abs should be working, but we're not thinking crunch so much. We're focusing on that extension. We're thinking about kind of draping that body over the foam roller, right? Like picture when you hang up your towel on a chair, right? It just kind of contours to that shape. So try to think about this spot that is touching the foam roller. That is what is doing the contouring around the foam roller. Again, this one hopefully should just feel nice. And even though we're working the extension in the mid-back, right, and a little bit in the cervical spine as well, because the head should follow you down. If you have a little bit of tightness in the chest, like me, you probably are getting a little stretch across the front between the shoulders as well, just by nature of the position we're putting the shoulders in as we extend. Let's do one more. And if you'd like, you can stay back on this last one. Feel just a little bit more give as you take an extra breath. And then draw up. We're going to stay in the same position, but take that foam roller behind the neck. So now you have it like a nice little pillow, all right? And we're just going to do a couple of cervical rotations. So all you're going to do is look over towards your right, come back to center, and then look over towards your left, keeping that neck right against the foam roller. So this one, again, a little bit of mobility because we're working the joint in directions that it should move, but it gives you a little massage across the neck. So it should feel really nice. And you can kind of think about retracting your chin a little bit and pushing your head back into that foam roller a little bit to give yourself a little bit more pressure in that massage. Let's do 2 more in each direction. Nice and slow with these. You want to make sure you always take good care with your neck because it's quite delicate. Last one. And go ahead and take that foam roller out from behind your head, place it off to the side. And we're gonna grab our towel again. So grab your towel, all right? You do want it to be fairly narrow width-wise, all right? Because you're gonna put that right underneath your back. So place that so that it's kind of wedged underneath your tailbone, and then lay down so that your spine is supported by the towel, all right? Then just lay here for a second and kind of feel the difference that that creates in your back. You should feel like your shoulder blades are almost hanging in space because your spine has been raised off, but your shoulder blades have the negative space to move around the towel, all right? So we're gonna start with nice big snow angels, all right? So reach your hands up and overhead, and then from here, we're going to open the hands out to the side, draw all the way down towards the hips, making this lovely snow angel in our living rooms during July. And again, this one, quite a bit of mobility in the shoulder because we're going from down by the hips all the way up and over. So adduction and abduction, those are movements the shoulder should handle quite nicely, all right? But also, because of where the towel is, you should feel a little bit of feedback from the towel telling you where your shoulder blades are in space, kind of when they separate a little bit to make room. So at the very top, they're a little bit more separated. And then as you come down and out to the side and finally down by the hips, they're able to squeeze more in towards that towel. And again, you can kind of notice there might be certain points in your arc that your hands might not touch the ground. And so that is tightness in the chest, preventing that final position. Last one. All right, let's leave the hands out towards a Y shape. All right, so they're not quite all the way up and overhead. They're out towards a 45-degree angle. All right, and then from here, you're gonna bend at the elbow to draw the elbows in towards the rib cage. And then reach back out towards your Y. And then bend and draw the elbows in and reach out towards your Y. Again, the towel should almost give you a little massage in those shoulder blades as you're drawing in and then pressing away. As you draw in, make sure those ribs stay down as much as you can. It's really easy to kind of let everything pop up to make space. So stabilize from the torso, only drawing in so much as you can keep the rib cage controlled. Last time. And take it out to a Y, and then take your towel out from underneath the back. All right, last thing lying down here, we're gonna grab our ball, all right, and do just a little bit of massage for our backs, all right? So take your ball and put it behind your back anywhere, roll around for a second, okay, until you find a spot that feels like it's carrying a little bit of extra tension, maybe it's a little sore. So roll around, and then once you've found that spot that feels like it needs a little bit of extra love, go ahead and just stop there, all right? Take one big inhale. And on your exhale, I want you to think about sinking that ball a little deeper into that spot. And now, go ahead and raise your hand up and over like you're making a rainbow from hip to overhead. And again, just feel how that kind of changes on the muscle. The muscle is now rolling over the ball. So it should, I mean, depending on how sore you are or how tight you are, it might not feel nice, but it should be a kind of hurts so good pain, all right? Make sure that you are on a muscle though and not on a bone, because you want to make sure that you're not putting that extra pressure on the bone or a joint itself. And now just kind of play with your hand positioning. So we were going up and down. Maybe try going out to the side like your snow angel. Ooh, that one is a little crunchy for me. Maybe go out to a 45-degree angle like your Y. Maybe go in the opposite direction with your rainbow. So go side to side. Go out towards the side and then cross the midline like a windshield wiper in front of you. So now we're kind of putting together these concepts of muscular release with the mobility, because we're also moving that shoulder in a bunch of different ranges of motion here. All right. Go ahead and let's stay on the side you're on. Let's find one more good spot, and then we'll switch over to the opposite side. So find another spot. Roll around for a second. Okay. Once you've found it, go ahead and take that nice big inhale. Exhale, release onto the ball. Think about that contouring again. Picture the ball kind of pressing up into the musculature. And now start with that arm movement. You can go up and down, side to side, in circles. Move the arm to what feels good, what feels productive here. And don't forget, you can also change your palm orientation. That will change things a little bit as well. So you can think, if you're going up and down, the palm can be facing down, or it can be facing up. It can be more neutral, facing the midline. Go for another about 10 seconds here. Your own personal massage. And let's go ahead and switch over to the opposite side. So take that tennis ball over to the opposite side. Roll around for a second. Maybe you don't have to look very hard on this side. And then once you've found maybe that knot, maybe a little sore spot, take that big inhale. Exhale, think about releasing into the ball. And then start with that arm movement, right? And I'm showing pretty full ranges of motion, but on this side I am definitely tighter. And you do not need to go to your full range of motion. You can go, chest level down to the hip if that's what, feels good for the body today. Maybe you get a little bit more as you kind of play around with that arm movement here. One side will definitely carry more tension than the other. Almost done on this side. Don't forget about that reach across. Sometimes crossing the midline, that's going to change the shoulder blade orientation. which can maybe give you a little bit deeper access into that release. All right, let's do one more spot on this side. So pick a different spot, take a second, roll that tennis ball around, or lacrosse ball. Would not recommend a golf ball. That would be very hard. Take that big inhale, exhale, release into the ball. And then this will be our last time just sort of exploring those arm movements, feeling how the shoulder blade changes position as you move from spot to spot. And of course, getting that nice release to that tender spot in your back or your shoulder. Let's go for 10 more seconds. And then when you're ready, go ahead and take that tennis ball from under your back and come up to a comfortable seated position. All right, last thing we're gonna do to wrap up is just a couple of neck stretches. So go ahead and, well, let's take 3 big shoulder rolls back, just to find the chest opening. Yeah, Kingsley and I are both fixing our hair. Apparently, mobility is frizzy work here. Find that nice open chest, find that nice long spine. Let's keep the shoulders slightly depressed, slightly retracted, and go ahead and take that right ear towards the right shoulder. Nice big stretch. You can add that right hand as a weight if you would like. So don't pull, just rest the hand so that it adds a little bit of intensity here. And then if you still want a little bit more, take your left fingertips and reach them away from your whole body. Think about pressing those fingertips into the ground to extend the stretch. And then release there. Let's take the opposite side. Left ear towards left shoulder. If that's good for you, stay there. Keep those shoulders down as you maybe add that little bit of extra weight on top of the head. Maybe you reach those right fingertips away, right? And we're creating space with that reach. So now we're creating space from the ear down through that whole arm. Release there, back to center. Now take your chin down towards your collarbone, all right? Feeling a stretch more in the back of the neck now. Same idea, you can still reach away a little bit, right? Maybe even on a little bit of a diagonal, and that will extend the stretch. Look up, come back to center, look towards your opposite side, chin down towards your collarbone. Stay there, or reach your right hand down and behind you just a little bit. Extend the stretch. And then come up out of there, back to center. We're gonna do a neck roll each direction. So look down at your chest, left ear to left shoulder, all the way behind. And then back through the right towards center. Switch directions, all the way around, nice and slow. Back to center, look center. Last thing, this is called the baby bird. So look back and then open your mouth 3 times. Open, close, 2, 3, and then bring it all the way back to center. All right, you guys are done. Hopefully we are feeling very mobile. All of these exercises can be done, every day, whenever you're feeling tight. So come back to this video. You can use it before or after a workout, or as a workout in itself for a recovery day. So thank you for joining, and we will see you next week.